Okay, you're on.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Rich Colasante. I'm an educator here at the Marine Science Center, located in Ponce Inlet, Florida. And our job primarily is to rescue, rehabilitate, and release endangered sea turtles along with shorebirds. And we've been in this facility since 2002. We've had over 18,000 turtles come through our doors and over 8,000 birds, about 188 different species. So we've been around for a while and we do a good job. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about sharks. The big fear about why do I get bit by sharks? Usually it's your own problem for a multitude of reasons. But let's talk a little bit about sharks in general. There's about 400 different species that have been described so far, and they're discovering new ones just about every day. Sharks have been around for over 400 million years, long before the dinosaurs, and if we keep on killing them at the rate we do, we're not going to have them around much longer. As a quote-unquote civilized society, we kill between 80 and 100 million sharks a year, primarily for finning. And finning is the practice of catching a shark, cutting off its fins and dumping it back into the sea for the primary reason to make shark fin soup, which in the Orient is a highly prized, very expensive delicacy. So we'll kind of get around that for a minute and talk more about sharks in general. Sharks have no bones. They're cartilaginous, they have all cartilage. Consequently, we don't see a lot of shark fossils. We have teeth. Why do we have so many teeth? Well, sharks have about 7 rows of teeth, as you can see here in some of these jaws, and we'll look at them and describe them more in a little while. But they have about 7 rows of teeth, and they replace a front tooth about every 2 weeks, regardless whether it's broken or worn out or missing for any reason. And we can also look at a shark's jaw and we can determine what that shark eats. So about 25 to 30 million teeth, about 25 to 30,000 teeth are shed by a shark each year. Let's look at the teeth and see how we can describe what a shark eats. If we look quickly here at the sand tiger shark, we see a recurved tooth, which kind of goes in and back on both the top and bottom jaw. And what this tells us is this animal feeds on small prey. By biting into catching up to a fish and biting into it, you can see this is like a fish hook. That fish is never going to escape from these jaws. So typically this type of a shark, the hammerhead, the shortfin mako, all have these type of teeth that's going to catch something and swallow it down. On the other side of the coin is the great white shark or the bull shark. If we look at the great white shark, we're going to see the same almost type of a tooth down here, but significantly different is a tooth up here. It's triangular tooth, and it has got little serrations on it. When I ask the kids who come in here if they believe me, if a shark eats with knives and forks, of course they tell me no. And I say, well, let me prove to you they do. When you push your fork into a piece of meat, you use your fork to hold it, and then you take your serrated edge knife and you saw off a piece of meat. Exactly what happens here. This shark will bite into the bottom of a large animal, a whale, another shark, a dolphin, whatever it could catch up with, and then sink the upper jaw in and then shake its head. And if you watch Discovery Channel, you see that motion. And that motion is just the same thing as we do by sawing off a piece of meat with our knife. So that's another one. The third type, and this is kind of a rare one, that if you can get a look at these teeth, they almost look like a saw blade of a circular saw. These guys have the ability to bite right through a turtle shell. They can, and we get many turtles in here which are bites, parts of the shell missing. By this particular one. This is the tiger shark. Okay, a couple of other things about sharks. Do they only have teeth on the inside of their body? And that's, of course, a tricky question. Of course they don't. They have them on the outside. You say, where on the outside? Well, sharks have our skin. Skin is completely covered with what's called dermal denticles. Little tiny teeth that face backwards, a little curve in them. And that allows the shark to be an extremely efficient swimmer by not having any kind of hydro friction on the side of its body. Those little tiny teeth actually trap water bubbles and allow the shark to swim a lot more efficiently than it would if they just had a plain skin. So if you rub your hand over a shark from head to tail, it's smooth. When you go the other way, it's almost like sandpaper. In fact, some cultures many years ago used shark skin as a sanding tool or a smoothing tool. What else can we tell you about sharks? They are a key part of the ecosystem. We need to have sharks to maintain a healthy balance of the ecosystem. They are what's called an apex predator. They're up there on the top of the food chain with the orcas, the killer whales, etc. Lifespan. Sharks can live anywhere from 16 years to many decades. Probably the record holder is the whale shark, which can live in excess of 100 years. Whale shark is a huge shark. That's a shark that uses its gills to trap plankton rather than just go out and catch fish like these guys do. Another thing about sharks to note is that we can easily tell a male from a female shark. A male shark has two little what's called claspers hanging off his rear caudal fin, and that would be a male shark. A female shark would not have those, of course. And that holds true with rays also. And rays and sharks are all related. What else can we tell you? Oh, here's another example, the nurse shark here. As you can see, this nurse shark has very blunt teeth. They are still teeth, but they're very blunt teeth, and these teeth will be used for crushing their prey, which would be like bottom feeding, bottom living animals like crabs, clams, and other crustaceans. Florida has the distinction of being the shark bite capital of the world. Now there's a good news to that, and the good news is that we've never had a fatality in what's called an unprovoked bite. New Smyrna Beach, which is just on the other side of the inlet here from Ponce Inlet, is also probably the surfing capital of the world. Now we put a lot of surfers together with a lot of sharks together, and we're going to have bites. We've got anywhere from 9 bites per year to up to as much as 24. Typical bite is what's called an experimental bite. It's a shark biting into something that it thinks may be food, and as soon as it feels that that's a big leg or an arm, it lets right go of it, and the surfer or the swimmer ends up with a laceration. Many of those lacerations are treated right by the lifeguards. Rarely does anybody have to go to the hospital. And some of the hardcore surfers are right back in the water again after a bite. Typically, bites happen in the peak season when we have a lot of tourists here. If you look at a chart, you'll see it's a bell-shaped curve. June, July, August, September. It peaks out in early September. If you look at another chart, you'll see that the bites are typically early in the morning or late in the afternoon. And if we look at the 12 noon area, we find minimal bites because most of the people are out having lunch. So you can almost see a reverse bell-shaped curve for that. How to avoid being bitten? Of course, there's a lot of ways. One of them, of course, is stay out of murky water. Do not swim in the early morning or late afternoon. Never go in the water if you have an open sore, because sharks have an unbelievable ability to attract it to blood. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that sharks can hunt down their prey in a second. Never wear anything shiny. If you wear something shiny, it would appear to the shark as a scale on a fish, so you want to watch that. Avoid areas where there are a lot of bait fish. Avoid areas where there's an effluent. And the other part of surfing here in New Smyrna Beach is because being connected to the Halifax River, or the Halifax River and the Indian River Lagoon system, Ponce Inlet constantly pours out every day hundreds of millions of young fish from their birthplace in the river out to the ocean. And the sharks can kind of view this as a grand buffet, just kind of hanging out there and waiting for the good stuff to come floating out to them. Sharks have a lot of senses. They have one more than we do. They have an unbelievable sense of smell, which I mentioned earlier, which they can pick up as a minor bit of blood in hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. They have great hearing, although you don't see external ears. They have internal ears. Eyesight, phenomenal. They have the lateral line, which they can pick up vibrations along the side of their body. And picture a prey millions of years ago, or even hundreds of years ago, would be a seal swimming along the top of the water. And now picture a surfer surfing along the top of the water or paddling along, making that same sound like he's in jeopardy or he's in kind of danger, so they can pick up on that. But the big key to the shark is its ability to detect the little bit of microelectronics that we put out every time our heart beats or we make a movement. Along the tip of their nose is a little tiny jelly-like cells called AOL, and it's not Merck Online, it's amplitude of Lorenzini. And these little jelly-like cells are connected right to the brain, and they can pick up these little bits of electricity. So sharks can usually use all these senses to hone in on their prey, and that AOL being real key because they can find just about hidden prey almost anywhere. In fact, some sharks have been known to be able to detect 600 millionths of a volt from 6 feet away. So it's a pretty cool system they've developed over the millions of years they've been around to get their prey. What else can we tell you about sharks? Can we break a break for a second?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sharks like seals. I understand sharks do not like dolphins. Is that true?
Well, that's not to be a proven fact. I've never heard or seen anything out here of the attacking dolphins, so I can't be sure about that answer. We do know that there's a old wives' tale that if you fall into the water, the dolphins will protect you from sharks, but I'm not sure how far that goes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, we can